What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer and Kyle Kelly live on a Thursday afternoon. Sorry about the inconsistent show times here during this summer. But yeah, I'm traveling tomorrow, so had to push the show up one day. And I was off the past couple days, so I did not have my weekly show with Tim Hyde. That will be back next week. But Kyle, we were also off last week because you were, or actually, we were both off last Friday. I was doing some personal stuff, so yeah, we were both off. So, Kyle, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing pretty well, man. Yeah, trying to take the time off while we can. Usually July is a good time, and August is a good time for us recruiting guys because it's a dead period. But that's when Notre Dame fall camp starts. So,
Yeah.
not really too many great opportunities for us to take some time away. But July is one of those times. So, I'm feeling refreshed, and I'm especially wondering what your impressions are of the new EA Sports college football game.
Oh man, it's great. It's a lot. I don't know if it's just because I'm washed as a sports gamer because I haven't played a sports video game probably since NCAA 14 came out. But it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, I remember playing on Heisman mode, sliders turned all the way up to the most difficult setting, and now I'm playing on All American on normal sliders. So it's difficult, but I'm having a lot of fun. I launched my Tim Hyde Dynasty yesterday, which I'm hoping to post some clips or some highlights, put it together and post it on social, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, the game itself is a blast. So I'm guessing you haven't got a hand on it yet, Kyle.
No, I don't have one of those new consoles, and I just cannot justify dropping like 5 hundo on something that I don't really have the time to play. So probably will not be in the market, which is a little unfortunate. I used to be a big video game guy back in grade school and high school, everything like that.
You grew up. You
But
grew up.
yeah, I spend my time golfing and fishing now, I guess.
There you go. So we do have a good bit of stuff to talk about in today's show. Kyle, it continues to be this time of the year where there's nothing going on except for the biggest possible news that you could have, which is these decisions from these big time prospects in the 2025 class. So we're going to discuss that in today's show. Folks, please, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up on this video. Of course, subscribe to the channel for more content. blueandgold.com is your home for up to the minute Notre Dame football and recruiting information. Hop on the Loose Emoji board and chat with thousands of other Notre Dame fans. And you can do that for just $1 for 2 months when you use the promo code UND1. This is for new users. Looking over at the chat, K-Mac, what's going on? J Carr, Irish Lou, Jay Patterson, Holtz My Beer, what is going on? Hope everyone, Matt, hope you guys are all doing well. Before we dive into some of the kind of discuss what's been going on with these 2025 recruits, I thought this was pretty cool. So what is it, like July or August, The Athletic puts out their freaks list. Is it 25 or 30 guys, Kyle?
So I think it started out that way, but it's become so popular that I think that thing exceeds like 50 guys now.
So it's basically like who are just the freakiest athletes, freakiest, just over, or like Riley Mills, I think was on it last year for Notre Dame. Who else? Did they put Morrison on there? I do you remember who was on the freaks list for the Athletic last year?
Not off the top of my head. I know Riley Mills has been the big one in years past. So
Yeah. And Notre Dame always has a few guys on there. Well, I kind of like this from On Threes. Charles Power, he put out the Future Freaks. So here was the 10, or was this just the top 10? He maybe had 18 or something on there. 3 Notre Dame commits in the top 10, including 2 in the top 3. Deuce Knight being number 1 overall. And we'll pop up a graphic on the screen to kind of showcase him. James Flanagan, which he's a player who got a nice bump up in the past rankings update because of his freaky athletic track times or track and field times, I should say. With some different things he's doing, the shot put and whatnot. And then Will Black, with his wingspan and him running a 4.940 laser time back in the spring definitely made him a deserving player. So pretty good. So I mean, look, guys, if Notre Dame doesn't get Meadows, Robinson, it doesn't discount the rest of Notre Dame's class. Like, look at these 3 commits on this list alone. So here you had some more data on Deuce Knight, 6'4.5", 208 pounds. That's verified from the On3 Elite Series. 4.53 40-yard dash, which he's ran that right around that mark on several occasions this year alone. 40+ inch vertical, 6'8" high jump, state champion 2024, 23'6" long jump, another state champion mark for him 2 times actually in the state of Mississippi. And then there was also another image where they had more James Flanagan information. Kyle, I'll try to find that. But do you have anything you wanted to add on these guys before I find that?
Yeah, just to add some context, I was checking Bruce Feldman's list while you were talking. Last year was 100 guys.
Oh,
And
wow.
three Notre Dame players made it. Riley Mills was number 10. Cam Hart was in the 50s. And then Javante Jean-Baptiste was a little bit further down the list in the 80s. And I think the way Charles Power did it is he picked 25 guys and a handful of honorable mentions. And it's ironic you mentioned Derek Meadows and Dylan Robinson because they were 2 guys that Charles Powers mentioned. He did rank Meadows a little bit further down the list, and Robinson was an honorable mention. But just to follow up kind of what you were talking about with Deuce Knight and his 40 time, that time last year, now granted, a lot of the quarterbacks don't run in the 40-yard dash on the combine anymore, but that would have been the fastest one last year at the NFL or in this year's NFL scouting combine.
Yeah.
How about this, Mike? It would have also been 12th among 22 running backs at the scouting combine. Of course, faster than Audric Estime. So pretty impressive there. Why I will say this, I was surprised to see Deuce be the number 1 athlete in the entire country when you think of the freaks that are all scattered across the 50 states. But then when you really dive into it further, you can see this guy. I mean, Deuce is legit on the football field, on the hardwood, and anything else he does athletically.
Yeah. And then here's another guy. I made this little graphic here. So James Flanagan, 6'5.5", 245 pounds, all-state in hockey, 11.44 seconds in the 100 meters, which at that size is really fast. And then 61'7" shot put, state champion there. I mean, Charles has texted me several occasions saying, like, I am, you know what? Let's just read the text. Hold on. Charles, hope you don't mind me if you're watching.
While you're looking that up, I will say in my 3-2-1 column today that I did mention that I personally would not be shocked James Flanagan found himself in a 5-star standard for On3 and Charles Power. That's how much this guy.
I'm actually doing, I think, an article tomorrow I did it this past weekend. It's kind of one of these articles I can save for a rainy day, but it was I had Charles talk about the 4 risers for Notre Dame in the past rankings. I mean, Dallas Golden moved up like 10 spots, but 10 spots up or down is nothing. So I already did the story where he talked about Deuce and Will Black's move ups, and then I'm doing the story where he talks about Flanagan and who was the other riser? Blair. So you can find the article Blue and Gold this weekend. He said, quote, I am blown away by James Flanagan. I'm scrolling up. He said, maybe the best blocking tight end of the group. He says, James Flanagan track and field stuff is bananas. Like, so Charles Power is such a nerd with these rankings and diving into these recruits. Like, yeah, leave it to that nut to, go find all this track data. But this is stuff that's important to college coaches. I know when over the years when I've heard from in covering different schools, hearing from people close to the coaching staff, and they're always wanting their guys ranked higher, they bring up this kind of information. So it is important, and things that the respective coaching staffs do care about. Kyle, we're going to And yeah, the Will Black as well. I mean, is that well? It's kind of self-explanatory. We've talked about Will Black a ton. He very well might be, not to put too much expectations on him, but he very well could be the next kind of Joe Alt at Notre Dame. So, folks, we do know you love Notre Dame memorabilia and unique one-of-a-kind Rockne items. Excuse me. Well, they do have Rockne items, but Notre Dame items, just generally speaking, you can find it at one place, and that is, of course, Augie's Locker Room, which has a wide selection of Notre Dame Stadium pieces, jerseys, helmets, autographs, and one-of-a-kind Rockne items. You can find exclusive Joe Montana signed items and famous sculptor Jerry McKenna's replicas of the bronze statues that you find around the stadium. Augie gets new stuff in all the time. So if he doesn't have something for you, he's going to go out and find it. So just give Augie a call, 574-277-6363. Visit him at his new location, 1733 North Ironwood Drive in South Bend. It's just down the street from campus. So if you haven't been to Augie in a year or so, he's got a new location, 1733 North Ironwood Drive. Augie's Locker Room.com. Okay. I guess this is something that people probably want to talk about. Yeah, no, let's not talk about Derek Meadows. I don't think anyone cares. It's not been a big storyline or anything here recently, right?
To say the least, I guess.
So you were off last week, Kyle, when this was like, I thought that week was going to be nice and slow. Like I planned some personal stuff for that week because, it's the middle of July. Nothing really happens. I was wrong. And that's why you took that week off, because nothing much happens. But, you get some commitments, but usually you kind of know who and what to expect. This was not the case. So, yeah, you got Derek Meadows. Kyle, the expectation was always like a by September deadline, right? You wanted to commit by September. I always thought it would kind of be like in August, but no, he wanted to do mid-July, and he had July 13th locked in. I think it was going to be LSU. Notre Dame made a big push, and I think that is very much why I know different people are saying, oh, is Michigan this? No, Michigan's running fourth as far as I'm concerned, maybe fifth. To me, this was because Notre Dame made a big push for Derek Meadows. And he needed more time to make that decision. Now, I thought that this past weekend is when that Meadows might come to a decision internally. It's not the case from what I'm told. Then I thought it would be, Tuesday. This thing just keeps dragging out. Look, we know his decision date is this Saturday, right? He pushed it back a week. But in talking to folks behind the scenes, you very much thought that he would make that decision internally, and he has not yet. So just kind of waiting and seeing, where things go from here, Kyle. Yeah. If I wrote this on the board this morning, if you put a gun to my head right now and you just made me pick, I'm probably going LSU. But it's a tight one.
I was kind of keeping tabs on the Derek Meadows recruitment last week because it obviously is an extremely fascinating one and one with super high stakes with Notre Dame. And I kind of, from what the drift that I caught was that he was kind of leaning toward playing for an SEC school. And for the longest time, we thought this was a Notre Dame-Alabama battle, but I've cautioned folks both on the message board and here in our YouTube show that Derek Meadows might not be toward the top of the priority list for the Tide. They just landed five-star Caleb Cunningham, I think his name is. Then they're tracking well with Khalil Lockett, who's going to be making a decision here sometime this summer, another, I think, five-star wide receiver. And after that, I don't know how much more room was left on that Alabama board. And I know I've said on this show multiple times that Michigan was more in this recruitment than I thought. And that was just simply because I didn't even think after their official visit they were in it at all. But it was just made clear to me that there were some family ties favoring the Wolverines in this recruitment. As for when I heard LSU got involved, I was not surprised just because when I've talked to Deshaun Meadows, Derek Meadows' dad, In the past, he's always speaking very highly at LSU. Mentioned how their wide receiver you, and that comment kind of always stuck in the back of my mind. That I wouldn't be surprised if LSU found their way toward the top of this recruitment. That ended up being the case last week. It sounds like Notre Dame's doing what they can, but I think it's important to note, although Derek Meadows is going to announce his decision on Saturday, this recruitment's far from over one way or the other, wherever he chooses. It's been kind of made clear to me, whether indirectly or directly, that how Notre Dame's offense performs this season is going to be a big deal to the Meadows family. They have a pretty good grip on what it's supposed to look like, because that's what it looked like at LSU under Mike Denbrock. But they don't know what it's going to look like exactly at Notre Dame. So they're going to be watching that one way or the other this season. And listen, Mike, last season we saw Notre Dame bring 2 committed guys to campus. One that we didn't know about, and Yamdi Oboko, who stuck with Georgia, defensive lineman out of North Carolina, and also a guy that Notre Dame absolutely coveted in tight end Carter Nelson from Nebraska. So I would not be surprised, looking far out, that if Derek Meadows were to choose LSU, that this is a guy that Notre Dame is going to push tooth and nail to make sure they get up on campus during the season. That being said, I'm with you, man. I know this decision has been very stressful and hard on the family. I think Sean, Derek's father, has echoed that sentiment, and his quotes that he's given on 3 Vice President of Recruiting and Transfer Portal, Steve Wiltfong. And now we are all going to be on pins and needles until Saturday, waiting for him to announce it.
Yeah. It's fascinating. As you were talking about the far from over thing, my mind goes to, like, with the Ivan Taylor recruitment, Kyle. There was no precedent, really. You had to go back a decade for Notre Dame keeping a player who is committed and take officials. When's the last time Notre Dame? And look, there could be someone who's very obvious. I'm just not thinking of it. It was like committed, like up to a big time school, and then Notre Dame went and flipped them. Like they tried with a Boko, they tried for Nelson. I mean, we gonna say flipping Kenny Minchie from Pittsburgh? Like there was. I mean, Philip Riley flipped from USC to Notre Dame, but that was in the 2021 cycle. I think that one being so dominated by COVID, the jacked up recruiting cycle. I don't even know if I count that one. So I'm pessimistic if he does commit to LSU Saturday that Notre Dame would be able to flip him. But I have been told for a couple weeks now, I'm talking to Notre Dame sources, that if Meadows goes to LSU or Bama or whatever, they are going to recruit him until National Signing Day. Like Ivan Taylor, don't think so. I think that one's done for the Irish. But with Derek Meadows, they're going to keep recruiting him. And yeah, he's a huge deal. I mean, Notre Dame has invested 13 months in him. They've been recruiting him hard. And his official visit to Notre Dame, right around this time last month, it went really, 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 really well. But LSU kind of just did what LSU does, and Notre Dame kind of countered, so to speak. And now we're at where we're at. And I would peg it as like a 50-50 proposition, Kyle. I think it is super tight between the two schools. So yeah, someone said Dalen Hayes in the chat. Jay said that's the 20. Was he in the 2016 recruiting class? So guys, we're talking 9 years ago. That isn't. I mean, I started covering Notre Dame the 2020 class. That was my first one. So, but yeah, Dalen Hayes is 2016. So how about John Kennedy's in the chat? How about that? I pop in John's chat. He doesn't pop into mine too much. He says, what has made me lose more hair, the natural aging process or following Notre Dame recruiting the last 20 years? What about the team? Like, what about the actual team, John? Like, what about the Ohio State game? That's what I would like to know. That would probably be number one. But in terms of your, I would say the recruiting, John, because I don't think you look a day over 35, in my humble opinion. So that's what I'm going to say, John. It's good to see you in here. So yeah, that's the Derek Meadows thing. I lean LSU in the. I think that LSU is also maybe a little bit more confident than Notre Dame is, but I really do think that this is one of those where people are guessing. Kyle, have there been you cover excuse me, you follow recruiting probably more on a national scale than I do, right? Like you are always following these various recruitments, even if Notre Dame's not in. I kind of just follow the Notre Dame recruitments. It seems like more and more, John says, one problem at a time. It seems like more and more we're getting unexpected commitments, like the Pickett kid. People thought it was Oregon or the other school, and he goes to LSU, right? It seems like we're getting more of these recruitments that maybe the players are like purposefully like throwing people off or whatever the case may be. But do you feel that too, Kyle, or am I just experiencing some gas or something?
No, it's really tough to say because, I do try to keep tabs on what's happening on a national scale, but it seems like even in the past, like I felt like maybe more in the past that there were some surprises. It maybe feels like the surprises now are much more bigger scale. Like just looking at the On3 industry rankings of some of the top recruits, like Decorian Moore, number 3 recruit in the class. He went to Oregon. Everyone had him pegged to Texas. You mentioned DJ Pickett. He was going to Oregon before everyone switched their crystal balls and RPMs to LSU yesterday. Um, Nee Mofford, he came out of nowhere and committed to Ohio State. There's just been a number of big time commitments that have kind of come out of nowhere. And I think that honestly, if Derek Meadows would have not said anything, or if there was not much reporting on this recruitment, if Derek Meadows would have committed to LSU on Saturday, I think we all would have been pretty surprised as well.
Yeah.
And I know this has been a talking point on the Loose Emoji message board that's kind of had my brain wheels turning, I guess. Is like, has Notre Dame won like many dramatic recruitments like this? Like, this is probably more of a question for you. But off the top of my head, like, I mean, the first one that obviously comes to mind is going to be Peyton Bowen because that recruitment was a fiasco. But like Jaden Lamar, or there's like a number of different like dramatic recruitments. Like, I don't really remember
Yeah.
Notre Dame winning, and that's why I throw the question in your court to see if
Yeah.
you have further context.
Okay. Yeah, this is great. I like this, Kyle. Bowen, Lamar, some of these names, dramatic because they were committed, right? And they were late in the cycle. But I still think there's dramatic recruitments that Notre Dame wins that are Deuce. Do you remember that
Yeah,
Deuce Knight Bear
that,
Bachmeyer week?
yeah, that was the first one that came to mind was Deuce.
Yeah, I'm driving back from Charlotte. Like, are you kidding me? Like, is this really happening? Like, just early that week, it was Bear Bachmeyer. And Deuce Knight was like, no, I want this spot and jumped on it. I would say Jadon Blair taking 7 official visits, going from Notre Dame to Michigan to Penn State. I think that one I would throw in the mix. Otherwise, no one really else. Dallas Golden
Kingston.
a little bit. Kingston last year, oh hell yeah. I mean the sorry,
Kingston is
not to
probably
race
the
back-to-back sentences here, but going to a church trip. Gerby Lambert for the biggest non-drama kid. That one was kind of like I think he gave a silent commitment to Notre Dame in July, didn't announce it until September. Like they were kind of nervous there for a second. Like, and he visited Boston College in the middle of it. I'm just scrolling.
I think Kingston is like probably the what do you call it? Not like the blueprint or like the poster boy, I guess, for this. Because like
Yeah,
I just remember
I would.
that. I mean, I was telling you, I was giving you a lot of slack for the longest time. I'm like, Kingston's going to Ohio State. Like, why are we discussing this? And then I get a text like a couple of days before his commitment. I think it was from you, and you said it's Notre Dame. I'm just like, whoa, like
Hey, your boy
the
got lucky
football.
with that early prediction. I would throw Aeneas Williams in that. Like, he didn't end up visiting anywhere, but Missouri really wanted to flip him late. Um, so yeah,
Jeremiah,
that's
Jeremiah
Jeremiah
Love,
Love's
his
another one.
that was crazy. I remember Jaden
Kind of
Greathouse, ebbs and flows.
the Love, but again, like Love and Williams didn't visit elsewhere after committing, so that's like the big difference.
Jeremiah, he almost went to Michigan, man.
He almost, but didn't.
Did not.
Almost, but didn't. So I think that, I mean, again, guys, to kind of wrap it up, which I try to wrap it up, and then we went on a tangent. The feeling on Derek Meadows is kind of gun to my head. I'd probably say LSU right now, and then I brought up the whole surprise thing. Like, it, could be a smokescreen. You never know, and it ends up being Notre Dame. I did see a couple rivals guys this morning, national guys, log predictions for LSU. Could be something, could be nothing. But man, this could be tough. So quickly, Kyle, it is 1:28 on Thursday afternoon. I think we're 3 or so hours from Dylan Robinson announcing his commitment. Tanuk Hines, the receiver from Houston, announced his pledge to USC this past week. Different people I had talked to said they felt Notre Dame led, but then like various sources close to the Irish football program did not think that Notre Dame was going to get him at really any point, although his official went well. So I was never on the Hines to Notre Dame thing. Like, now I could have seen Notre Dame lead, but I never felt confident enough to like log a prediction or anything. I never really bought it. The Robinson one, I did feel good about Notre Dame landing him. I think he's going to end up picking Washington. I think the line in the sand is that he wants to play defense at the next level. Notre Dame likes him at receiver.
How about that storyline this cycle?
And then the West Coast schools like him at, I was going to say Pac-12. The West Coast schools like him on defense, and he prefers defense, which I feel like is rare. Usually guys like playing offense, but it's, there's not, he's what, 6'2", 6'3", there's less 6'2", 6'3" receivers than there are, corners than there are receivers. So I get it. But I do think he's going to go to Washington. I think this is going to be a recruiting loss for Notre Dame in a way, but then not in another way, because he just wants to play defense. Like, I think, if he wanted to, if it were all these schools were recruiting him at the same position of receiver, I think he goes to Notre Dame, but he wants to play DB. So, I think he's going to go to Washington.
Yeah, as I was starting to touch on, like that's kind of been like a subplot this cycle of Notre Dame wide receiver targets wanting to play defense. Like, it started with Brandon Finney, who they offered from the McDonough School in Baltimore, a guy that we thought early on was maybe like a Notre Dame kid, could end up at Notre Dame, but he ended up wanting to play defense, and he committed to Oregon as a corner. And same thing with Dylan Robinson, prototypical Notre Dame kid. A lot of signs that were working in Notre Dame's favor, but it just seems like right now, a few hours out from his decision here on Thursday the 18th, that he's leaning towards playing defense, which in that case is going to favor Washington. So,
Kyle,
they've had a tough go at it, wide receiver recruiting this cycle, just for a number of reasons, and that's one of them.
Yeah, no doubt. Bettis and Burris are good players, but you want to go in ideally to the fall with like 95% of your class committed, and then that 5% is just a flip. Go big game hunting late. Now you got to go into the fall hoping that you can find like a Logan Saldate or a KK Smith. Some guys they flipped late in the past 2 cycles. Like, I think both are good players. I think KK is my surprise of the team this year, but they're not. You don't want to rely on that, right? You want to go get your initial big target. So receiver recruiting, definitely going to be a focus for Mike Brown, Mike Denbrock, Chad Bowden, and all those guys. Deuce Knight, rumored, always freaking something. And then we write about it, and then people get mad that we're writing about it. I'm like, listen, we're like debunking things. Don't get mad at us. So it was Ole Miss I had somebody hit me up the other day, like, "Hey, do you think Deuce?" It was like a Bama writer or something. "Hey, do you think Deuce Knight's gonna stick?" I'm like, it's just every day. It's something new. It's one week it's Bama. I know Bama's got their Keelan Russell now, but for a while that was Bama, and then it's Colorado, and then it's Old Miss is the talk of the week, and now it's Auburn, the school that I think might have finished second. Like Auburn was a big contender for Deuce Knight before he picked Notre Dame last September, but now it's Auburn. Everyone's talking Auburn. Give me a break. Oh my gosh. So I mean, Cole Pinkston on three is just doing his job. He's hearing that, or he heard that, Auburn was. All right, we just got to get this. Got to get that yawn out. Sorry, guys, I'm struggling over here. That Meadows was looking. Excuse me, Meadows. Knight was very much considering, going to their Big Cat weekend, which is next Saturday, I believe. Just doing his job. That's what he's hearing. I get it. I mean, Knight told you emphatically. And I was off yesterday, but I saw it, and then I texted, a Notre Dame source and a source close to Knight. I didn't even know you were hitting up Knight, and then we both kind of get the same information of what? No, he's not going. I was told that he has. I mean, he already has plans that weekend anyway. Something with his high school, basketball program or something along those lines. So, yeah, he's not going to Auburn. Do I have that quote where he just said, "I'm going to Notre Dame"? Like, can I go find that real quick? Like, he says it's business. Like he wants to kind of keep these, the pipeline, not maybe not the pipeline, the door cracked, for whatever reason. Maybe it's relationships, staying in the headlines for to continue to grow your rank. Guys, I don't know, but that's what he said, and what he's also said as I'm trying to find it on our Twitter account. Here it is. I've always been solid. I'm going to Notre Dame. This is what he told me, I think July 9th. So I got no concerns here, Kyle. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the only way, I don't want to say the only way, but I think where that door comes from being like ajar to being a little bit more open in terms of him going elsewhere is if one of three things happen. Marcus Freeman leaves, Gino Guidugli leaves, or Mike Denbrock leaves. And you don't want to say never with any of those things, but with the way signing day has moved up before the college football playoff and where we expect Notre Dame to be at the end of the season, they should be in college football contention. They should be in the college football playoff in December before signing day. So Deuce should be signed, sealed, and delivered to Notre Dame before they kick off the college football playoff. Now, ironically, this wasn't the case with Brian Kelly. I mean, he left Notre Dame when Notre Dame was still essentially alive for a college football playoff berth. The rules have changed, and in that same accord, like just because Deuce signs with Notre Dame, there's nothing preventing him from requesting out of his letter of intent going elsewhere. But I expressed it on the message board yesterday. I expressed it in my story that I wrote yesterday. Both Deuce Knight's words and actions completely, unequivocally, undoubtedly, over-wavering support him going to Notre Dame. He's been to Notre Dame 8 times, reported visits, including one of his official visits, or his one allotted official visit, which would be from June 14th to the 16th. He was basically on Notre Dame's campus for most of the month of June. There is nothing saying or signs pointing that Deuce Knight is going to end up elsewhere other than what other reporters are saying. And I'm sure the buzz is coming from those respective programs for them to potentially flip them. But, I mean, we talk to Deuce, we talk to people close to Deuce, and we talk to people from Notre Dame all the time, and
Yeah.
they're all the same wavelength that he's going to end up in Notre Dame.
Yeah. It was cool, though, to hear him just say, "I'm going to Notre Dame." Like, actions are obviously the most telling thing, but, you like to throw in those words, too, and it was good. Like, he told me on the phone, it's like, "I'm going to Notre Dame." Like, it's kind of like you guys keep asking me about this, which I told him before I asked him about it. I asked him about Ole Miss or whatever. It's like, "Hey, you going to Juice Fest?" A sentence I never thought I would say in my life because the hell's Juice Fest. But but here we are. And he ends this sentence with, "I'm going to Notre Dame." It's like, okay, good enough. Uh, yeah, until he stops talking to those other schools, it's always going to be something that's discussed. But yeah, th- if he visit, this is what it's boiled down to for 6 months. As long as we've been talking about this, if Deuce visits another school and it's like a serious visit and not that the Elite 11 was in Oxford. He went to spring practice for 45 minutes with some buddies and didn't even do a visit, like because that happened, but that was nothing, right? That's exactly what I just said. It was a whole lot of nothing. But until he actually takes a real visit elsewhere, I'm not worried about it. So that is it. Like Roger Dodger, until December, hold your breath. Like, all right, sure, you can do whatever you want, but and it's probably good advice, but there's no reasons for concern. Like I can be concerned that a missile's going to hit my house, but that doesn't mean it's like good reason to be concerned. I know that's a silly analogy, but you guys get where I'm at. All right, we're gonna shift to Kyle. So Auburn's got Big Cat Weekend. It's not my favorite, but it's better than Juice Fest at Ole Miss. Notre Dame does their Grill and Chill, a little corny, but this is going to be Thursday the 25th. You had good information here. Now I see Always Irish is in the chat. I found John Kennedy on YouTube back in 2019 when I was following the and following and reporting on the Will Shipley recruitment, which was so much fun.
Another dramatic Notre Dame recruitment.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Year. I mean, I wasn't on the beat and I wasn't following that recruitment, but from everything I heard about that recruitment
That was a wild one.
Yeah.
It was a wild one. You know, give me an IPA and an empty stomach and get me offline, and I will give you some thoughts on that one. But that's how I found John Kennedy is hearing about or watching. I remember taking out my trash in my old apartment complex and hearing, or watching John just rant. I don't know what the hell he was ranting about, but it was amazing, John. So anyways, Thomas Davis Jr. is from the same high school, Matthews Weddington. That's why I'm bringing up Shipley. So tell us the information here. And is Thomas Davis, I mean, he's a junior. Is there an important or a notable senior as his dad?
Yeah, Thomas Davis Sr. I think played 16 years in the NFL. Find me anyone nowadays that can hold 16 years of the same career anywhere, let alone the NFL. So very impressive bloodlines and obviously an NFL legacy recruit, which Notre Dame has been outstanding at recruiting. Ironically, other than losing Ivan Taylor, the son of Ike Taylor, former Steelers DB to Michigan, but otherwise been super successful with landing these guys. And I know that in talking to people around the state of Carolina, I know in actually hearing from Thomas Davis himself, that Notre Dame is a pretty good spot here going into this visit. Yeah. Not a huge surprise considering how well they've recruited the state of North Carolina and how well they've recruited NFL legacy prospects. But Thomas Davis Jr. is going to be back on campus for Notre Dame's Grill and Chill on the 25th. Big time linebacker in the 25 class or 26 class. I think this is a guy that has top 100 potential. As you see, he's the number 110 overall player in the class. And kind of just looking in the rearview mirror a little bit, since Marcus Freeman arrived at Notre Dame, this is something I've written about, I've talked about ad nauseum. Yeah, Drew, you are right about 16 years at linebacker. I mean, 16 years at long snapper, punter in the NFL is super impressive, but linebacker, and his father had a couple major injuries too. So anyway, going back to my point about linebacker recruiting under Notre Dame is, since Marcus Freeman arrived, basically secured a top 100 commit linebacker in every cycle. Started with Jalen Sneed. Drake Bowen was a top 105 guy in the 23 class. Kingston last year. Now Notre Dame is battling for Manon Faramo and Nathaniel Usu-Boateng, both top 100 guys who we think Notre Dame is in the one or two schools for both those guys. Thomas Davis is another guy that looking ahead to next year's class or I guess technically the following year's class, but next cycle, that I think could be a top 100 guy, another guy that Notre Dame's in a good position with to win a big time recruiting battle. When I look at some other schools involved here, I think Ohio State and Clemson are two schools I'm intrigued by. And his father, Thomas Davis Sr., is a former Georgia Bulldog. But ironically, the Bulldogs have not offered him. So I think if Georgia gets involved, this can make things a little bit more difficult on Notre Dame's part. But yeah, pretty notable visit coming at the end of July. And I know, Mike, last year you fired like what, 6, 7, 8 RPMs in Notre Dame's favor coming out of those, of guys that all visit that grill and chill. And I think all of them hit so
8
far.
for 8, baby. 8 for 8.
So
including Taylor. I'll include Taylor because that hit.
I mean, my point is, proof is in the pudding. Notre Dame gets these guys up for the grill and chill and gets them back on campus for a game, and then seals the deal in January. Pretty much, instead of always Irish, they're usually all Irish.
Nice. Yeah, so that's looking ahead to the 2026 class. Big visit day on July 25th. Excuse me.
Thursday. I get it mixed up too.
Yeah. And then, otherwise, kind of all eyes have been on the receivers this week with 3 of the guys coming off the board. I mean, it's very possible that Notre Dame goes 0 for 3, but really, Hines, I never got the sense they pushed that hard for. Robinson wanted to play defense. I'm like, what are you going to do there? That's kind of a deal breaker. And then, Meadows would be the big one. And then from there, it's Matt Fremo, it's Boateng, it's continue to recruit more receivers. And then I do like where Notre Dame stands for Brandon Logan, the safety from Fort Wayne, the Vanderbilt baseball commit. So that's kind of where things stand for Notre Dame. So that is going to wrap up today's show. I really appreciate you folks for tuning in to this week's show. We'll be back next week with a bunch of shows. Definitely this show late. Let me just look at my to-do list. Kyle, we should be good for to move this back to Friday. During the season, this show will be Thursdays, but because we travel during the football season, so this will be back Thursdays, but we'll be Friday next week. That cookout is next Thursday. So we'll do a show on the 26th to kind of recap some things coming out of that. And then I'll have my show with Tim on Tuesday night. And who knows, maybe I'll mess around and do a Goolsby show next week on Monday. We will see on that. Really appreciate you folks for tuning in. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. If you're listening via podcast, thank you very much. Please leave a 5-star review if you enjoy our shows here at Blue and Gold. Always Irish, K-Mac, J-Car, Bleeberg. Appreciate you guys for tuning into the show live with us. As always, folks, we will catch you next time.